listening to The Life Manual with your hosts Tom Payani and Emma Bradford, a practical guide giving you tips and tools to enjoy a happy, fulfilled and successful life.
Welcome to The Life Manual with me, Tom Payani, and Emma Bradford. How are you doing today, Emma?
Hi, I'm great. The sun is shining and it feels like spring.
Yeah, spring's here, isn't it? Well, I've got mixed emotions today.
Yeah.
Because, of course, you know, I love hanging out with you. But this is the final episode of this season, isn't it? It
is. We've covered some great things.
We have. We've come to the end of our series of 10 podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And today, in my opinion, is probably going to be the most useful episode. Because it's a review, it's a summary, it's a takeaway of all the things we've spoken about so far.
Yeah, so we're going to be covering a lot of the highlights, the good, useful tips and tools
the
highlight, all the things that we talked about. We're going to cover it in this episode and condense it down and give people a really good insight into some wonderful tools that they can apply to their life.
I mean, it's good for all the lazy people who want to skip the first 9 episodes and just come straight to number 10 just to get the best bits. Yeah. Well, it's okay. I don't mind. All right. Well, can you remember all the way back to episode 1 what we spoke about?
So in the very first episode, we were talking about presuppositions of NLP. And so basically there's like 6 wonderful keys that we picked and we talked about into how to live a happy and successful life. Yeah.
So just to remind everybody, so presuppositions is, different keys, different statements of how we look at the world, really, or of how NLP can be applied to our experience, our subjective experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, one that I think is really important, that is definitely worth mentioning again, is the map is not the territory.
Yeah. Because we tend to have this, sometimes we have this fixated mindset that like how we see the world or how we believe things are, that's how it is. That's the truth, and everyone needs to agree with us.
Yeah, we've all been there, haven't we? Yeah, but it's exactly, and I think the important thing to take away from this idea that the map is not the territory is everyone's map of the world is different, and to be aware of that, and to sometimes try and remember that in high stress situations or situations where arguments or any sort of negative situation, it's so useful to just take a step back sometimes, change your perspective, realise maybe that you see things in a certain light to other people, and it's self-awareness, isn't it? It's self-awareness.
Yeah, awareness of like what's going on with us, awareness of what's going on with other people, awareness of the situation as well, knowing that there's always a deeper meaning, a deeper understanding that we can learn. So if we're having a bad time at work and our boss is being mean to us, or if we're struggling in a relationship, there's always something we can learn from it. There's a deeper meaning there, and we can really use that to learn a little bit more about ourselves and others as well.
Yeah. So what's your favourite? What's a presupposition that's really important for you? Something that you would like to review again?
I mean, well, what we just talked about, the meaning, like really tapping into that curious mindset of, I wonder what's going on here, and really noticing that how we're experiencing the situation is just from our perspective. It's just through our pair of glasses or the window that we're looking through, our lens. And everyone is seeing things slightly differently, and tapping into that, just those 2 words, I wonder, are so powerful. Like, I wonder what's going on here. I wonder what I can learn from this person. Even if they're being mean to us, there's still a learning there. There's still something that we can take away from it. Yeah,
I think the whole point with episode 1 was just an introduction to sort of NLP and our own psychology and that curious mindset, and trying to understand our experience a little bit more, and questioning why we think the way we do and why we behave in the way we do. Because the first stage to growing and improving yourself is a sense of awareness, isn't there, and understanding why you're doing something. And I think, you know, it all connects with this idea of just having that element of self-awareness in a situation that normally could affect you negatively, and how you can control that and how you can manage it rather than control, I think is the useful thing to take away there. Yeah,
and this curious mindset empowers us rather than keeping us as a victim. It doesn't need to, because if we're going through a challenging situation and we're like, oh, but they did this to me, or he did this, or she did this, or said this, or we're just keeping ourselves in a victim state. And when we go through life from that perspective, it can be very challenging. It can be a real struggle. Whereas when we start changing that and tapping into that curious mindset and learning from situations, then we feel a lot more empowered. It's like, okay, well, I have a choice here. I can choose how to respond to this. I can choose how to really experience this situation.
Absolutely. All right. And then episode 2.
Yeah, so episode 2, we were talking about the RAS.
RAS, yeah. The reticular activation system.
Yeah, so the the RAS or the RAS, whatever people like to call it. Easier for me. I tend to call it the RAS, but yeah, the reticular activating system is a part of the brain where it really acts as a filter. So a filter between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. And it really helps us with goal setting. It helps us filtering our experience in life. And
yeah, I mean, our brain has to process so much information that without a filter, our heads would explode, wouldn't it? So, you know, this is what the RAS does. And it can be, it's like Jedi mind tricks. It can be used for good or evil. But the beautiful thing about it is we can manage it, can't we?
We can, like through the use of visualization skills. That's just one of the many ways that we can teach the RAS to focus on what we want to focus on. But yeah, absolutely, it filters everything that's coming in through our senses, because if you consider in every single second we have information coming to us from what we smell, what we taste, what we see, what we hear, what we feel, all of these different senses, and we can't grasp all of it every single second. So the RAS filters it according to our belief system.
Absolutely. And, you know, just to illustrate this with some examples, so maybe you've just broken up with your partner and, you know, it seems that every single person in the world is like totally in love.
Walking down the street, couples everywhere.
People kissing each other right in your face, you know, everybody just absolutely like head over heels, and you've just had your heart broken. This is your RAS. You know, this isn't the reality of the situation. This is your RAS filtering information according to recent experiences or belief system or how you're feeling in that moment. The
belief that I'm alone and everyone else has a partner. Then if we have that belief, we'll walk down the street and we'll see evidence of that.
But the beauty of RAS is you can turn that 180 degrees, can't you?
Yeah.
You know, if you can see the good, you can see the positive, you can manage your RAS to filter information that affects you in a positive light.
Yeah. So visualization skills, and also like looking at the beliefs. Like, okay, if the RAS is filtering our life experience according to our beliefs, then when we change our beliefs, then our life experience will be different.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, you know, that's the RAS, isn't it? And then episode 3, can you remind us what we spoke about then?
That was one of our favourite topics. That was the inner critic.
Oh, yeah, we love the inner critic, don't we? We absolutely love him. Yeah.
We could talk about that for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the inner critic, we talked a lot about different experiences and things that we can do to help manage it. One of the biggest things that we touched upon was that the inner critic is not all of us. It's simply just the fearful part. It's just the part that has all the fears that wants to keep us within the comfort zone. And it's bringing up all of these limiting beliefs as well. So sometimes we go through life believing everything that the inner critic is telling us. It's like if it says that we're stupid or fat or ugly or whatever it says, we're like, okay, yeah. And then we act according to what it says, which is a big mistake.
I mean, we're never taught to question the inner critic, are we? It's just an assumption that the inner critic is us,
Yeah.
and it is the truth. There's an assumption there.
And I've always seen, like, since I started doing NLP, I've always seen it as a challenge, as a test. It's testing us whether we're really committed to connecting to what we love in life, regardless. It's kind of giving us a dare in its own funny language. It's saying, go on, are you going to listen to everything that I'm going to say, or are you going to continue regardless and live the life that you want to live?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important as well to recognise that the inner critic is not us. It's a socially constructed entity.
It's our fears.
It's our fears, and it's something that's constructed through previous experience, because maybe we were scared of something, or we are scared of something.
Mm-hmm.
But also, what society tells us we should believe. So it doesn't. It's not Tom. It's not Emma. And also, it's a survival mechanism as well. It's hardwired into us to survive, because a long time ago we had to survive in many different ways, didn't we? Running away from lions or whatever.
Dinosaurs.
This doesn't just disappear overnight. So our inner critic's there to protect us, actually, in a lot of ways. But we just need to be aware that this isn't who we are. It's something. It is what it is. It's not good or bad. It's just there to do its job. But we can decide if we listen to it or not, or how we use it.
Yeah, to believe it or not is, because that's when we make the mistake. And I've also noticed that there's many different things that can help with the inner critic, that a lot of people say, I'll just ignore it completely and continue regardless. But like, to some extent that can help. It's also one of our biggest teachers, because it's teaching us what we're afraid of. It's teaching us limiting beliefs, and then it's highlighting that, and then we have the choice. Okay, I can choose to let that go or not. So we can use it to our advantage if we really have that awareness. It doesn't have to be something that's dictating us for the rest of our life and telling us what to do, what we can't do.
No, and I think also it's important as well, because the world can be a little bit lonely sometimes, and we get so self-absorbed in our own thoughts that we think we're the only person who exists with an inner critic. And we're all suffering in the same way. And I think it's important just to recognise this is part of the human condition.
Every single human being. Yeah.
And the solution is not to get rid of the inner critic, because you can't. And people who spend their whole life trying to fight this inner critic because they want to one day destroy it, you're fighting a losing battle. It's never gonna happen. So the answer is to manage it, or as you just said, use it as a teacher, use it in a positive way. Yeah. And I think as soon as that mind switch occurs, instead of fighting this thing, because you're never going to knock it out.
As long as we're a human
durable.
being with an ego and living in this human experience,
So I think the day that you decide, okay, I'm going to manage this, I'm going to use this in a way that's beneficial for me, that's a massive step, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. And then after the inner critic, what episode are we on now, Emma?
We're now on number 4. So
okay, I struggled to count to number 4. Okay. Well,
so after the inner critic, then we went into goal setting.
Yeah, I mean, goals are... I think this one, for me especially, is really useful because, I can overthink like a lot of other people, and you can have all these ideas and your mind can be a bit of a mess sometimes. And I think, goal setting is just a really good practical tool. Getting things on paper, having systems with goals, making yourself accountable in certain ways, whether that's SMART goals or there's lots of different structures you can use to set goals. But I think, having a clear definition of goals for certain periods of time, as long as they don't become obsessive and they don't overwhelm you, I think is a really useful practical skill to have.
Yeah, and writing it down is just, really powerful. I mean, sometimes with goal setting, I used to put post-it notes up on my notice board and use that as like a visual representation of the goal and the timeline of the goal, and I found that really useful for some of the goals that I was working on.
For me, I think it's really useful to journal. For example, in the morning, there's something called the 5-minute journal, if anyone wants to look that up, which I think is really useful. And basically, as soon as you get up in the morning, it becomes part of your morning routine. So you write 3 things you're grateful for. Then you write 3 things that you would like to happen today. and then you write 3 affirmations. And I think that's a really useful way to start your day. Give your day a little bit of structure, and give your day a little bit of purpose. You know, that's something that I think anyone can take away.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And whatever people find useful or comfortable, it's really good to when we start the day, to start it in a way that really preps us for a wonderful day ahead, rather than connecting. I mean, I spent many, many years going straight to my mobile phone and checking out social media right first thing in the morning, and I noticed that had a knock-on effect on how I felt. So what I did is I changed that, and now that the very first thing that I do is I think of one thing that I'm grateful for, and I really go into it in depth, like all the aspects about that one thing. And yeah, like writing it down, like you said, can really help.
Just to go back to the mobile phone thing as well, I think like if a real good bit of practical advice is, and I know it's going to be difficult for a lot of people, but charge your phone in a different room.
Yes.
You know, like buy an alarm clock. You know, spend £5 and just buy an alarm clock and just, you know, take the hit. Because, oh no, but my phone's my alarm and blah, blah, blah.
What did we do before mobile phones?
Like, just charge your phone in a different room. There's so many reasons for this, because you don't want it to be the first thing you look at when you get up. And the blue light is actually really bad for you. It doesn't give you proper sleep.
Yeah, and if you have it in a different room, you don't want to get out of bed to go and find your mobile phone. Like if it's right there, you're going to be tempted to just switch it on and check it. So
another useful thing I heard as well that is a good bit of practical advice, and it relates to all this with goals and stuff. There was quite a famous American general, military general, quite recently. I can't remember his name, and he said the one thing that he always teaches soldiers to do, or one thing that he always has to do, you know, regardless of whether you're in the military or not, is make your bed as soon as you get up. This sounds, you know, maybe a strange thing to say, but he's saying it's a small victory, it's a small win, you know, and if you set up your day, if that's the first thing you do, make your bed, it means in some strange, insignificant way, you know, the day's been a success. I know that sounds strange, but it's these small wins that add up. You know, it's these little things that give you the purpose and the motivation and the positivity for the rest of your day. Completing
little tasks, and then you feel like, okay, yeah, that's good. I've done that.
Yeah.
What's next? Yeah, exactly. And also with the goal setting, we were talking about the why, like the why behind goals, which is so important. So if there's something that we want to achieve, that's something we want to bring into our life, whether that's a new partner or whether that's a new job or whether that is increased health or whatever the desired outcome is, like what's the why behind that? Like why do we want it? Why do we want more money? Or why do we want to find a partner? Why do we want to have a car? Whatever it is.
Sounds so obvious, doesn't it? But I mean, like in any coaching session I do, you know, that's any goal for a coach or a trainer or anybody in that world. You know, it's digging as deep as you can about why somebody wants X or Y. You know, you're like that annoying 5-year-old, you know, when, you know, with the parent, but why? Why? It comes into this like weird metaphysical conversation after a few questions because the 5-year-old's asking you about the meaning of life, you know, but why? You know? And,
why is the sky blue?
Yeah, you know, and, you know, my head's like going to explode, you know, but it's true. It's really useful because we go through the motions in life a lot, and it's so important to realise why you're doing something. You know, really questioning that.
Yeah, and there might be another way to actually, like, when we find out what the why is, if it's to feel happy, there are many other ways that we can feel happy. It doesn't have to be to have a car or whatever car it is, if that's the goal. Well, money's a great example, isn't it? A lot of people want to have material possessions or make a lot of money because they want X or Y, but actually they could reach that X or Y they want in a much easier way and in a much quite
more straightforward
often
way.
Right here, right now. I mean, it's those little things every day that give us the joy. So those little moments, those little experiences in the lead up to a goal can give us so much joy, and we can tap into that before actually achieving the goal as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and then after goals, what did we speak about?
Yeah, so we were talking about, like the why with the goal setting, that helps to increase motivation, and then that links in with what we were going to talk about next, which is emotions. So emotional state, that can really be useful in increasing motivation and boosting our emotional state. So we talked a lot about different things that can boost our emotional state. So power poses, music, there were a lot of different things that we touched upon with that.
Yeah, so it's like ways that we can sort of force ourselves, or at least manage better, getting into a positive state, getting into a more positive emotional state. You know, look at people like Tony Robbins are great examples of this, aren't they? You know,
he's a master of emotional state
because
boosting.
He says, you know, that's, if you can master that, then the rest is much easier, you know. And you can see before he does his talks and his speech and stuff, he does these weird little dances or whatever to get himself in.
Bounces on a trampoline,
you know. But that's it, you know. And it sounds, you know, it's psyching yourself up. You see athletes do it before sporting events all the time. You know, this isn't a weird thing. You know, before a meeting, before a speech, you know, you're visualizing, you know, a successful speech. You know, you're changing your physiology, you know, and that's really important. Making yourself big, making yourself strong, moving, you know. Emotion is motion. If you're feeling like low on energy, one of the best things to do is just stand up and just jump up and down a bit. Or I have a friend, if he's ever low on energy, wherever he is, he'll just do like 10 press-ups. I'm like, mate, we're in the middle of the street, like, what are you doing? You know, like, it's quite an extreme example, but you know, the concept behind it is real.
Yeah, I mean, it really, really helps, and you're just kind of preparing yourself for whatever you're going into. I mean, whenever I do workshops, whenever I go and see a client, I use music. So I have music on my phone. I use power poses as well. So stretching
the
body.
Talk about that, isn't there?
Yeah, Amy Cuddy.
Yeah.
The talking about the power of the body language. So it really helps, like stretching the body, like opening up the body, power poses that can help with that. And you just go into that situation feeling so much more, like so much more energy, so much more alive, and you can give your best self. Like,
because that's how you got here today, wasn't it? You didn't come through the front door, you actually climbed through the window today. that was interesting, just to try and get yourself psyched up for the show.
Superpowers.
Yeah. All right, and then, so what episode are we up to now? We're whizzing through this.
Yeah, so after emotions, so we were talking a lot more about the emotions, like how they're created and all of that, but the main things were the power poses and how to boost them. And then we were talking about limiting beliefs after that. Okay. So talking about limiting beliefs, so the beliefs that limit us, the beliefs that we pick up on whenever we're like young, we go through a confusing, challenging situation that we don't quite make sense of, and we pick up a belief from that, and this can be stored unconsciously. Like if we have the belief of I'm no good at maths because I got a bad grade at school, if we hold on to that, then every time we go into a restaurant and we're with a group of friends and the bill arrives, we're naturally going to hand the bill to someone else to figure out, because we believe I'm no good at maths, I'm not going to sort it out. So things like this can really affect us.
Well, the problem is they can become self-fulfilling prophecies, can't they?
Yeah, exactly. And there are good beliefs and there are limiting beliefs. So like there are certain beliefs that are really useful to have. So always check both ways before you cross the road. Things like that, they keep us safe and protected. It's when something becomes an obstacle, like a brick wall limits us in achieving whatever we want to achieve in life, that's when it's an issue, and that's when it's a good idea to break them down.
Because it's quite crazy when you think about it. If you look at people who are successful, in inverted commas, because that differs depending on who you're talking to, but you know, there's a pattern with what they say, that, you know, it doesn't come down to intelligence or who they know or X or Y. It's just they thought they could do it. You know, that's the running theme with anyone who you admire, who you feel is successful. They just knew they could achieve it. And, you know, they fought crazy odds, or they really had the cards stacked against them, but they still managed to do it because they didn't have the limiting beliefs. They never thought they did, for whatever reason in their psychology, they thought that it was achievable and that there was no reason for them not to do it.
Yeah.
And it's so simple, but it's so elegant, that thought.
Just kind of giving it a go. And even if they did have some doubt at some point, they just thought, well, it's worth a try.
Yeah, that's also important to add on because, we're not saying go around being like super arrogant and you're the best at everything and you can be 1,000,001 things. You're going to not succeed in certain aspects of your life and you need to bounce back and blah, blah, blah. But I think the point is that, if there's something you really want, you need to, at the very, very least, question those limiting beliefs.
Yeah,
you're not going to play in the NBA if you're 5 foot. I get it. Some things just are not possible, but to question the limiting beliefs and to really test those limiting beliefs is the most important thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really important. Like thinking, okay, like what if there's something that I want to bring into my life? If it's, for example, a relationship, then it's okay. Are there any limiting beliefs that are preventing me from experiencing that?
I'm not good enough, or people won't like me, or I'm ugly, or I'm fat, or whatever. These are all limiting beliefs that can be tested very, very easily.
Yeah, so in that episode we were talking about how to start breaking them down, and one of the ways was to challenge it. So if you have the limiting belief of I'm ugly, then find the positive opposite belief. So I'm beautiful, or something that would be the opposite of that. And then find evidence in your life that proves that true. I'm pretty sure that most people at some point in their life have received a compliment from someone. So quite often these limiting beliefs, when we think them, we believe them as if that's how they are all the time.
Look for evidence that goes against that limiting belief.
Yeah, challenge it, because when we state limiting beliefs, especially if they're with the I am statement, I am XYZ, we're stating it as if it's like that all the time. But that's not the case. It's not the case. We're so much more than that. And there is a lot of evidence in our life that supports the opposite.
Absolutely, yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're up to episode
7.
We are good at maths. I am good at maths. Episode 7.
We're good.
Yeah. All right. So what did we talk about in episode 7?
Okay. So this is when we brought in Matthew.
Yeah, we had our guest, didn't we?
We had a wonderful guest.
He's
Matthew.
very good at testing limiting beliefs.
Yeah. So he's a real, we brought him in because he's a real master at kind of like moving out of the comfort zone, and he has a lot of experience with improv comedy, and he did some stand-up comedy as well. So we were talking to him about that. And I really enjoyed the episode. It was, we talked a lot about comfort zone and how important it is to move out of the comfort zone and just to give things a shot, like just to try it. Because if we don't try it, we don't know. We'll always be wondering. And one of the key phrases in NLP is there's no failure, there's always feedback. So if something doesn't go according to how we thought it might go, doesn't mean that we failed. There's this wonderful quote from Marie Forleo, she always says, I may win, I may learn, but I never lose. We don't lose. It's just according to our perspective whether we think we lose or not.
I mean, the takeaway from that lesson is pretty simple and succinct, isn't it? It's just have a go.
Go for it.
Have a go.
Go for it. You just need to go for it and try it. And things that can help. I mean, I know from personal experience, when I've built up some support or had some sociable accountability, that's really helped me in moving out of the comfort zone. Because if I was going through it by myself, it was a lot more challenging. So having that support can really help.
I must admit, if I had to give one piece of advice that sums up every single episode, that sums up everything absolutely, I would say is take action. Just take action. Whatever you want to do, however you want to change, just take some sort of action.
Life is too short.
That would be just, if there's anything you're going to remember one thing, even if you think it's the most ridiculous action ever or it's going to go wrong or whatever, just take some sort of action, do something.
Yeah.
That's all I would say.
Yeah, because we can know something only so much when we're considering it from an intellectual point of view. It's when we actually go into that process and that movement, that activity, when we start feeling into it, when we notice, okay, yeah, actually this is what I want to do, or this is not for me. There's more information that comes to us when we actually go into that and take action. Absolutely.
Okay,
so
should we move on?
Yeah, so then afterwards, after that episode, we were talking about the 6 basic human needs. So we were talking about all of those. So just to run through the list, we have love and belonging, we have significance, we have uncertainty. So, yeah, perceived uncertainty. Well, perceived certainty. So there's the opposite. So we have uncertainty, or some people might call it variety, and then we have perceived certainty, which for some people might consider as like a safety or security. Then we have contribution, and then we have growth. So those are the 6 basic human needs. This is a lot of what Tony Robbins talks about. And these can be applied to anything, like whether you're working in a corporate company and you want to boost sales, or you want to help your clients or customers to feel happy, or you're in a relationship and you want to improve things in the relationship, whatever area, these are 6 basic human needs that are really important, really key to living a happy and fulfilled life. And it's really, really interesting to notice, okay, are there any that I feel more drawn to, any that I feel that I'm lacking? And when we're goal setting as well, there might be some of these that we're searching for. If there's a particular goal that we're working towards, there might actually be one of these 6 basic human needs that's the big why, according to what we're looking for. So there are many different ways that we can generate more of these feelings, these sensations in our life to help us feel more of these basic needs.
Absolutely, yeah. And then the most recent episode we did, we discussed representational systems, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
So talking about whether someone is more visual, more auditory, so connected to the sounds.
Yeah,
more
and this is about building rapport, isn't it? So if someone's a more visual person, you're using vocabulary to build rapport, to build a connection with them. This is really useful in a business context, in negotiation, in sales, but also in general, isn't it? In real life, just trying to make someone feel more comfortable around you. Vocabulary, the words we use, are super important, and we don't often think about this. Yeah, definitely. And it can be really interesting. I mean, just focusing on this one thing can help you understand so much about yourself and about others, really understanding what makes people tick. And I know someone who actually, they carried around a dictaphone for one day, just recorded themselves and listened to it back. Sounds quite boring, but they noticed massive patterns that they just had never thought of before. Certain vocabulary they used, and they were like, "Oh wow, I really do lean towards this." Representational system, auditory system, for example, where all the vocabulary I use is linked to sounds and things like this, and it says, it can really give you an insight into who you are and help you be a better communicator with other people as well.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're studying for something or learning something or the way you're working at work, knowing this system, the preferred representational system, can really help, because then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm really using a lot of visual words. Perhaps I could bring in some more graphics, more images, more colors to help me revise for that exam, for example. It can really help us. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So we were from that, we were going to talk a little bit about the eye accessing cues. So eye accessing cues were something that we use in NLP just to notice what's going on through our head and how we're communicating and how other people are communicating. So there are what we'll do is we'll post an image in the show notes,
Okay.
a link to this, so that people can actually have a look and just to observe like how the direction that your eyes are going in can indicate whether you're actually remembering certain images or remembering sounds, or whether you're connecting to feelings as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll post that image and give people a starting point with that. Yeah. Excellent. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, before we go, I'd like to know from you, Tom,
Okay.
like for you, like what is NLP? Like what? Big question. Like what?
I mean, for me, it all comes down to personal development. About trying to grow as a person, trying to improve myself, and trying to contribute to those around me. And like with any skill, you have to be aware before you can do anything about it. So if I'm aware of my behaviours or certain neurological processes that happen, then I can do something about it. I can manage it, and I can hopefully change it or manage it in a way that's positive for me and for those around me. And if there's any set of learnings, or if there's any subjects, NLP, psychology, CBT, whatever, it all connects. For me, it's massively important, because you want to improve yourself as a person, you want to continue learning, and you want to be a better person to others as well. And I think my background is before I was a teacher, and for me something that has been a frustration for me in the educational system is, why is our psychology not a core subject at schools? What's more important than understanding what goes on between your ears? English, maths, science, whatever. I'm not saying they're not important, but to understand who you are, to understand your own psychology and your own behaviours and actions and things like your inner critic and limiting beliefs, these have massive, profound effects on the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And I know some schools are making progress, and they're implementing things like mindfulness, and some schools are up for it and being progressive. But for me, what's more important? What's more important than understanding yourself and therefore understanding others around you, being a better communicator? I mean, I'm not saying this lightly. I think there'd be a lot of problems in the world that would be solved if people understood themselves and each other a bit better in a psychological sense. So for me, that's the main reason why something like NLP is so important. And what about you?
Yeah, well, very similar. I mean, it's such a wonderful set of tools and techniques and a perspective on life to really, like you said, to really understand ourselves and others, and to really remember the real core that's within us that we've forgotten. I mean, quite often when I'm talking in workshops, I describe it as like NLP helps us to clear away the cobwebs, the things that we don't need to hold on to anymore. It helps us to clear away all the limiting beliefs that we might have picked up on, and really get back to that core, that true essence of us, that potential, that capability, that energy, that power, whatever you want to call it, that's within every single person. And I mean, personally, like with my journey with NLP, like out of all the things, that's one of the things that's really helped me to do, is to see that within every single person, every client that comes in, every person that attends the workshops. Like, I have that belief that they have so much within them, and NLP is it can be really empowering, and so that's why I love it.
Absolutely. Well, Emma, it's been an absolute pleasure doing this series of podcasts with you. I'm
likewise.
sure in the future we'll be back for some more, but we're going to have a little
More
break,
series?
aren't we?
Yeah.
I hope so. But this is our series 1. It's a decent start.
Yes,
10
absolutely.
episodes. We haven't done badly. We've covered a lot. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm sure we'll be back soon in the future. But from us at the Life Manual, that wraps up series 1, doesn't it?
Yeah. And thank you to everyone for listening. Like, do let us know how you get on.
And also, where can we find you?
Yeah, so everything's on my website, www.emmabradford.net.
Okay, and after you've looked at Emma's website, you can come onto mine, tompayani.com. We'll have everything in the show notes anyway.
Yes.
But it's been an absolute pleasure, Emma, and I just want to say thanks.
Thank you.
All right, take care, guys. See you soon.
Bye.
Life Manual podcast with your hosts Tom Payani and Emma Bradford. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share the link with your friends and family, helping us to spread these practical tools to more people in the world.